the aim. We are also recording this session, so you can always go back to it and see in case you missed something. So I will hand this over to Saloni without further ado, and let's get started. Over to you, Saloni.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Shweta. It's so good to be back after a couple of years and do something new this time. Okay, before we start, can we have videos on? You don't need to be dressed. You could be in your pajamas. That works. I have put on some earrings today, but I mean, it's fine otherwise. Awesome. Thank you, Nana. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you, Mansi. Thank you, Shweta. If the others can do it, it'll be amazing. It just allows me to get more energy. Yeah, great. Awesome. What we're going to do today is going to be a very practical, very hands-on session. I have a couple of slides, but I'm going to focus more on interaction. And then those slides are things you can even take as a takeaway. I'll send them to you, Shweta. Obviously, they are not meant for wide circulation. They're meant only for Lean in Bangalore folks. Yeah, are we good with this? Is everybody prepped to interact, talk, jump right into this? Because if we're going to talk about workplace thriving, that needs energy. And that starts here. Yeah? Awesome. Everybody heard the song that was playing? I purposely played the entire 4-minute song. Right? There is a reason I started with this song. I usually don't start with such a slow song. I like more energy because, you know, it's a Saturday morning. But the number one reason that everybody gave, right, when we ran the poll on what is the problem, right, it was how will people perceive me? Right? How will I be perceived? I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to share the results with everybody on this. Can you see? Worry about how you will be perceived followed by not finding the right words, power hierarchy gap, and then lack of confidence and not worth changing or calling out. We're going to be able to handle some of these right away, which you can take back and start working on tomorrow. And some of these will need some internal work, some practice. Are we good with that? Right. So we looked at all the responses that we had gotten. All right. This is a small summary of the kind of requests we had. So what we have done is we've bunched all your responses into 4 broad categories, and we will open it up to take a couple more of them later. Yeah. Doable? Awesome. Great. If that's doable, we're going to start with a small little poll, Shweta. The first one, which is how comfortable are you about making a change in what you do? Oh, lovely options, Shweta. Okay, we're waiting for like a couple more people to answer. Come on, folks. Shouldn't take so much time. Awesome. Now we have 85% participants who responded. We're going to end the poll and we're going to share the results. I would love to see this. I'm going to share the results with everybody. Can you see it on my screen? Can you see the results?
No, not on your
Not yet, Saloni.
No? Okay. Why is it doing this?
I can see it.
I could see the results. Yeah.
Okay, you probably have a lag going on. Now can everybody see it?
Yeah, I can see the results.
Awesome. So lovingly, amazingly, we have 78% who said change is hard. And I get you, but it is doable, right? And we're going to put it into practice. And there is an idea which I have not shared with Shweta, which we're going to talk about at the end to enable us to do this change. Then there is change is my second name, which is for people. Lovely. And yes, change is difficult. I get it. And if it is that difficult, you might want to try adapting some of these techniques and also look for help professionally with a coach, with a mentor, with somebody else who can help you rewire your brain for change. Okay. On that note, I'm going to stop sharing this and we're going to get started. Yes. Can you see My screen? Awesome. Thank you, Lean and Network Bangalore. Thank you, Shweta, for, as always, coming up with a interesting workshop. So this is the first time I'm presenting this work. I've curated and presented this workshop for you guys, which is strengthening your work presence with pithy responses to sarcasm and politics. And we're going to talk about the reason we have named this workshop Workplace Thriving Beyond Gender. We're going to see it very shortly. Right? Is Kuch To Log Kahenge, the song we played. If you're worried about being perceived, yes, you are going to be judged. Yes, you are going to be evaluated. Yes, people are forming perceptions about you. The fact is, can anybody be universally liked? Yes, no. Just put it in the chat box. Yes, no. Do you think anybody can be universally liked? I see a bunch of no's coming in. I saw one yes and a bunch of no's. Awesome. No. So then why are we so focused on whether we will be liked or not? We won't be universally liked. People are going to make some perceptions about us. So us thinking about it, what does it do when we get too focused on our perception? We start fumbling. We overthink. How many of us overthink? I do a lot of it, right? We fumble. We spend hours and hours over preparing all of these things, and we lose. And because we don't look as confident, the other people don't have a good perception of us. How many of you are able to figure out what is the real picture जब कोई fake confidence दिखा रहा है? You're able to sense that something is off. How many of you are able to do that? I see a couple of these hands going up. Yeah, that's because human instinct, right? We're catching onto these smaller body language cues, micro expressions, and we're coming up with it. Which means you're losing and they are losing. So thinking about how people will perceive you, overthinking about it is a lose-lose situation. What you need to do, all right, is curate how people perceive you. And that has to be done with authenticity. I talk about being a blue-orange. It doesn't mean you need to become somebody who you are not. You're just going to highlight who you are and make a few changes, right? And we're going to talk about these in different situations. Okay, how many of you think that being a woman has been a huge disadvantage for you at the workplace? All right. Okay. Now I'm going to say something which you may or may not like, but it is the truth, and my job is radical candor. So bear with me if you don't like what I'm going to say. All right. How many of you have seen meeting rooms like these, full of only men? Right? You've at some point or the other seen you probably are the only woman in the room. Right? Now you would think, oh, you know what? Men interrupt me. Men take credit for my projects, right? Men, they sideline me. All of these things happen. But you know what? There is one idiot everywhere in every room who thinks he's the rock star, truly or not. There is somebody else, and this is a room full of men, and this happens with them also. Let me talk, damn it. Because what we're going to talk about, all of these issues are human behavior issues. They get exacerbated, exaggerated when it comes to women, but they exist everywhere. Can't see my pop-ups. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. Shweta, am I allowed to swear?
For the sake of, I think, for the group, we can do with the asterisk marks for the time being.
Yeah. So what the F? He took my credit. This happens everywhere. It is not about whether you're a woman or you're a man. There are going to be idiots who will take credit for you. And they're not idiots. They're just playing the game. Not nicely, but they're playing the game. Right? Right? Then there's going to be someone who's being bullied. Have you seen in a group of men, एक इंसान होता है जिसकी खिल्ली उड़ाई जाती है? You know, who's always picked on, who's always made fun of. If you see a group, we've all seen a group of men interacting with each other somewhere, not just work. And that in that, there is one person who's always bullied, correct? This is human behavior, right? Then there is somebody who's working very hard, he's just looking down and, doing his job. Usually they will be very straight-jacketed, buttoned up, right? They follow the rules, these kind of people, usually, not always, right? And they're wondering, why am I not getting promoted, right? They're just tired of slogging. And then there is this loner kind of personality that you see on the left, right? Which nobody gives a damn about. All of these statements, at least one of these, have you resonated with at some point or the other? Or feel that this happens to women? I have. The problem is we think this happens only to women. It happens everywhere in any group setting, anywhere where there's more than one person, there are group dynamics at play. So these issues are going to happen, right? Our job is to understand how to deal with them. Yes, there is a layer of bias. What we're going to do, except for the bias section, we're going to see how do we develop these skills. Because if you think just working hard and doing a good job is good enough, it's not. If you think you're smarter than everybody, but you're not getting your dues, you're smarter than everybody in one area. But there is one big area, which is called street smarts, which is called workplace navigation, where you're not smart enough. And let's first recognize that I need to build the skills in this area because they're essential to every person in the workforce. Make sense? Right? So, and the next time you're like, oh my God, this is happening because I'm a woman. Stop. Stop and ask yourself, would this happen to a man? Yes. How would I deal? So then this is not a woman issue only. There may be layers of it. This is not a woman issue only. This is a skill issue. Why am I asking you to reframe this? Because the minute we go into this, oh, I'm a woman, so it's happening to me, and we stay there, we become victims. We have dropped our power down. We've gone into the rage and rant zone and not in the solution zone. Does that make sense? Right? That does not mean things are not happening. It just means we are choosing not to look at that obstacle. Have you heard that story where they say if you have to cross a obstacle, if you jump a tree or a log, but if you keep looking at the log, you will trip. But if you look at your destination, you will not trip. Let's not make our gender the log. Can we do that? That does not mean we don't account for the log. We don't evaluate how far we have to jump, what speed we have to take. It just means we don't get so focused on the log that we actually do trip on it. Right. Oh, by the way, yeah, men also worry. Is my man bun okay? Right. So everybody is worrying. I have invariably seen more men staring at a mirror than women. You would be surprised. I have a couple of chats here. Awesome. Cool. Hi, I'm Saloni Mehta. I'm the founder of Saloni Mehta Company. I talk about anything and everything communication, building your narratives and owning your story. I am an amateur poet. I write for Joy. And I'm an Adrak chai aficionado. So if you like chai, if some of you have come earlier, you know this about me. I'm not going to get into much more about this, but just a small intro. Right. How do we do this? So what is the format going to be? We're going to choose one of these 4 sections. All right. You're going to I'm going to open up the panel, open up the room, and we're going to take 1 or 2 or 3 scenarios. You have 30 seconds to tell me a situation, right? And then we're going to address this. So for each section, we're going to run it for 10 minutes. And then I have a couple of standard ideas, which if we've already covered, it'll just be on the slide. And then we're going to do all of this. And then there is a small surprise activity at the end. Doable? Okay. Now, before we do this, there is another poll that I want us to run to crowdsource. And this is going to be our cheat sheet that we are getting, not from one person's brain, from many people's brain. Shweta, can we launch the poll? Okay, but it's a long answer. Yeah. So share a secret hack you use and how. Right. So share it. I'm gonna obviously throw it up on the screen. I'm gonna give everybody about a minute to do this.
No, what do you mean here? I mean,
Okay,
what?
share a secret hack you use at the workplace and how do you do it? So let's say people interrupt you or you get these really weird questions like "Bachcho ko kaun sambhalega" or any other situation. just share a secret hack. Obviously, give like a one-liner or like a phrase on what the situation is, right? Or if you have a hack in general toward, like, I use one of the things I do is, and because I am a smoker, I can do it, is I take people down for a smoke when they're pissing me off. That's my way of bonding, but that's because I'm a smoker, I'm comfortable doing it. If that's not there, you can take them for a coffee, right? Whenever there is a conflict, I ensure, when I used to be in the workplace, I used to catch a cup of coffee with that person one-on-one. Hey, we have 3 people who've answered. I'm gonna look, oh, awesome. Six in. Okay, we have a timer on the poll. 20 seconds more. Okay, all right, 5 seconds more. Awesome, I'm gonna end the poll right now. If you've not answered yet, it's okay. You can send it to us separately. Okay. Hey, why am I not being able to see the responses? Okay, we'll get these at the end. Shweta, this was a paragraph question, right?
Yes, I think it was a paragraph question. Let me figure out how to share the responses.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we can move ahead.
We can move ahead.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So we have a quick poll. We do a lot of polls in today's session to get started. There are 4 areas that we have identified: interruptions, boundaries, bullying, and bias, right? Pick the area that you would want me to start with first. So, okay, we have 6 responses. This is a ranking poll, right, Shweta?
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, I think we've got 28 responses so far.
Which is good enough.
And I think the one in highest demand is actually setting boundaries.
Is setting boundaries. Awesome. Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the floor up. All right. I'm going to end the poll. We'll share the results. As we can see,
So
setting
setting
boundaries is 37%. Stand up to bullying is 33%. And all right. Managing interruptions is 37%. Okay, cool. What are the issues you faced? I'm going to take 3 people. All right. So just unmute yourself if you can come on video, nothing like it.
Are we discussing boundaries one first?
Yes, we're discussing boundaries first.
Can I go first? I have a situation where sometimes managers can like ping you to ask for work post, let's say 8 p.m. and on weekends, and you do it as a one-off, but then it starts becoming like a constant thing.
Right.
And you're not sure when to say no because they are your manager also, and they control the.
Yes, they control you. Awesome. So I've opened up a whiteboard because I'm going to take some of these and then I'm going to ask the others to start pitching in. So, okay, how do you handle this? How did I handle it? I used to work at a startup and you know how startups work. And I used to work directly with the founders, which means there is no layer between me and the top management, right? Is I started peppering conversations. What do I mean by peppering conversations? Now I started telling people how I am one. I started talking about how I talk, how I like to be efficient with my work. Two, I started talking about, so I work on the model of fascinate people. So I started talking about how on my weekends I go trekking because it was predetermined that Monday to Friday mera office ke liye hai, Saturday, Sunday is my time. It was agreed when I joined the job. So if that agreement already exists, if you agreed to work 6 days a week, bro, you have agreed to work 6 days a week. If you haven't, then because those are your weekends, I would invariably talk about planned calendar. That means that I plan my weekends out. I tend to be on treks and hikes and stuff like that. जब भी मैंने किया ना एक दो, I would ensure कि उसका मैंने photo दिखा दिया, कुछ दिखा दिया, so people believe it, right? I would, I had a now I have it, and I wish I had done it earlier. Separate work number. Have a separate work. This I cannot tell you how important it is to have a separate work number, because if you have the same phone, like I have only one phone, my work number sits on WhatsApp for business and my personal number sits on WhatsApp. Now, if you already have a number which is given to everybody, what you can do is over the next 3 months, migrate personal to the new number. Or if you have a second phone, nothing like it. I think some phones allow you to have a dual WhatsApp also, right? Please do that. Just a careful thing. If you switch to WhatsApp for business, you can never switch back to normal WhatsApp. You lose your conversations. So just be aware of this. I know somebody who lost it, but have a separate work number which you do not access after hours. And you definitely don't access on weekends, right? So if they don't see you online, they believe you're not available. Never ever reveal. So as women, the last thing you want to do is talk about family commitments because there's already too much kit around it with us, right? Right? Just say you're busy, you're learning, your workshops, you are trekking, whatever it is, based on your company culture, what you think will fly. And if you think I don't want to say anything, I have planned my weekend, I have commitments. What happens when we say the word commitment itself is a certain I have things to do, vague. I have commitments which I have planned in advance, right? If ever you're doing it as an exception, call out your exception. Allah karu. We've all heard about this. We've seen it, sorry, I'm going to take a couple of these instances, which are maybe a little stereotypical, but we've seen men, एक चीज घर में कर ली इतना हल्ला करेंगे. आज मैंने बर्तन धोए, आज मैंने बर्तन धोए. Oh, I made you breakfast in bed. I made you breakfast in bed, right? Or any other such thing. What they do unknowingly is छोटी चीज की ना वो भी हमको 10 बार सुनाया जाता है. And you must have seen this at the workplace also. Somebody will make a simple report, right? And they will make it look like, oh my God, क्या काम किया. So when you take an exception, call it out that I had planned something 3 weeks in advance, but because this is extremely urgent and important, I'm canceling 3 commitments to do this, right? What it does is it shows you're doing over and above and it is an exception. If somebody recurringly is doing this, ask them to tell you in advance. Tell them that give me at least a week's advance notice if you're expecting me to work that weekend. I plan my weekends out a month in advance because I have that many things I want to do with my life. I want a full holistic life. Zyada kit kare na. At 50, I don't want to look back. Use this and wonder where is life. It works. Just be like at 50, at my deathbed, whatever the age group is, I don't want to look back and wonder where my life went. During the week, during my work hours, I'm fully here. That is half my life. And say that is half my life. But there is another half, which I take a lot of effort and pain to plan. Does that help? These are a whole bunch of ways to do it. Obviously, then there is ignore, or what I call the Iron Man technique. Okay, I had this colleague. I am confrontational as a person, which means तुम मेरे से पंगा लोगे मैं आ जाऊंगी. Which is not a good idea. Always learned it the hard way. Actually, I didn't learn it the hard way, but I recognize it's not the smartest. I had this amazing colleague, Nija. She'd be like, अरे वो बोलते रहता है, उसको बोलने देने का. इधर से सुनो, इधर से निकालो, उधर से जाने दो. She's like, I just hear him out. I do whatever I want. I know I deliver. At the end of the day, he's happy, I'm happy. Because I have delivered the results. I have ignored him. So it is listen and do whatever the fuck you want. It's called Iron Manning it. Right? This is inspired by Marvel Iron Man, by the way. All right. So that is a great way. Never say a yes. Just listen, smile, nod, or at max, just be like, I hear you. Never say a yes. Do what you want and come back. Does that make sense, Nena?
Yes, I think the separate work number one is a very good one because startups usually are on WhatsApp and it's just going ping, 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 through the night. And it is a little anxiety inducing also. I think this is like a right away one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
And the other thing you can do is go to your settings if like you want an uninterrupted 2 weeks, 2 days, right? And you are like, I don't care about notifications. I have a partner who does. So I'm like, just disable the app for those 2 days. Don't uninstall. We all have the option to disable it. If you can't disable it, switch off notifications for those 2 days.
Right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Awesome. Great.
We have Deepa who wants to share something.
Yes, Deepa.
Yeah, so one on the notifications at night, I would say, like you disable, you also can set up your night mode and, say that from this time to this time is your night mode on most of the phones. And if you set up night mode, then for sure you don't,
Yes.
get those notifications, and that kind of keeps you. Of course, if you want, like, you want personal notifications, you don't want work notifications and all of that, that's different. Other thing is like, sometimes like, I think I'm kind of fortunate that the organization I work for right now is a very decent organization, and it kind of, wants to respect boundaries, but it's just that the organization is that we have people in across time zones, all time zones all over the place. So sometimes somebody would send you a meeting invite where the meeting actually starts at 11 o'clock at night or 11:30 at night or something like that. So the way I respond is I say that, in India, it is 11:30 at night for us. If this is really urgent for me to join this meeting, I don't mind joining. But if you can keep the time zone under consideration, it would be better to change it to a mutually convenient time.
Lovely, Deepa. I love that you have such a strong response. But this is also cognitive effort. Great. So this is one option. The other option is block your calendar out. So if you see my calendar, I have lunch blocked out. I have dinner blocked out on my calendar, right? Because sometimes I use a Calendly link for my clients to book time on my calendar, right? So if you're working with multiple teams, block your calendar out, block it out for strategic thinking. The same way, Deepa, like let's say after 9, you don't want to take calls. Block it out. Then that person has to come out of the way and ask you for it. Because I'm assuming everybody is doing check calendar invites, right? And you can set an autoresponder that this time block is not available for me. Does that make sense? Yes, I see Swati and I see Shubhasini. Shubhasini, you raised your hand first, so go for it.
No, just a thought I wanted to share is to set expectations. I would say not sometimes, a lot of the times. So if you're the kind of person who, irrespective of the time of day or weekends, just, immediately, instantly jumps and respond, people will expect you to do that all the time. But sometimes if you don't, once, twice.
Hey, Shubhasini, your audio has gone off. Shubhasini, we
Sorry.
can't hear you for some reason.
Sorry, am I audible
You're back now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I was trying to put my headphones, so there was a. So I was saying that sometimes it's the expectation setting. If you don't reply once or twice, they get the message, and they invariably, folks, go back to people who respond at all odd hours and times. So they will reach out to that person only. But if by not responding also, sometimes the message is communicated. I just wanted to share that.
It's called what I call this is building a reputation. So you build a reputation of somebody who is available during work hours. Does that make sense? Awesome. Yeah, Swati and then Diksha.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Saloni. This is wonderful what you're sharing. So I also worked with startups for 5 years and directly with the founders. So generally, or even in the more structured organization I am in right currently, but what I've noticed is my immediate that intimidation comes. I don't know. It's not that they're trying to scare me or something. I work directly, but how to say no? I see that, and I will be more on a point. Okay, no, it's our work. We will. Don't worry. I'll work on it. Don't worry. I'll take. Or even if they say that, okay, sorry, I'm calling you late, I'll be like, no. My job becomes to comfort them that no, it's not late. It's fine to call me.
No, I get what you're saying, right? And in fact, I have a bunch of ways to handle this.
Okay.
First, we'll begin with the more tactical bits, all right? And then we will go to a larger mental model. Is that something we can do?
It sounds great.
Cool. So I'm just going to share my screen. So I need to move this to PowerPoint mode. Here we go. Learn to say just no. All right. Just say a no. Does that make sense? Now, if you're somebody who's not comfortable with it, practice it. Where will you practice it? With family, with friends? Somebody says, can you pass me the butter? No. Even though you're passing the butter, you're saying no. Why? We're just training our brain and making our body comfortable with no. Laugh and say no and pass it. The reason we're doing this is a lot of us have muscle memory for things, right? Saying no and giving explanation is a muscle memory. Your brain is trained for it. So practice it in non-threatening situations. This is a proper psychology hack. Practice it in non-threatening situations so that your body feels comfortable. Because every time you have to say no, I'm sure you feel like that little thing in your stomach. And because when we overthink, thinking actually happens second. The first thing that happens is our body goes into a flight or fright response. Right? So we'll feel it somewhere. Either your shoulder tenses up, right? Or your pupils dilate, right? Or you tend to shrug, like go in. So you recognize these somatic responses. And one way to make our body feel safe is practice no. The other way is before you respond, pause. Expand yourself. Do one round, if not 3 of this. 4 breaths in, rather, take 4 breaths in, hold the 4 breaths, exhale 8. That is a total of 16 seconds is all I'm asking you to pause for, right? I'm not doing all 16. Do this because this is known to bring your heart rate down. This is known to, and you may not remember it. So start again practicing it in non-work situations. This is too much. I know I'm asking you to go a little extra with the breathing technique, a little bit extra, but at least saying no masti mein at home is doable, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it doesn't need utna mindfulness. Now, if you're somebody who can't just say a no, or you think culturally people will find you rude, no, because, but don't give, a detail, generic term. No, because I have commitments. No, because something else is on urgent priority. Right? I have another urgent priority. Very important. Now, why do we do no? Because psychologically, when you add the word because, you're giving somebody a reason to believe. Right? Reason to believe is a FMCG marketing term, RTB. Right? Because के बाद मैं कुछ भी लगा दूं, because लगा के मेरे brain को लग रहा है कि अब reason आ गया. It's a psychological hack. Does that make sense? But as a rule, avoid giving too much information. I had a bad habit. Sometimes, I'm okay. Sometimes I respond to my clients at night if I like them. I'm very simple. If I like them, I will respond to them at night. I was about to tell that person, oh, you know what, I can't do 9:30. Sunday, I will do 11:30. I will do 11:30 because, I'm going to be out late at night. I'm like, wait, I don't need to tell her anything. She's not interested, right? Why am I giving her response? So I just wrote, hey, 9:30 not possible. Can we do 11:30? So if you want, give an alternative if you have one ready, right? So no because or no alternative is another option. Or I need to check my calendar. And if you want time to decide your approach, let me get back to you on this. That's enough. Let me get back to you on this. Max, tell them, give me time. I will call you in half an hour. I'll call you in 1 hour. So they are not, dekho, kisi ko latakna, nobody likes to be left hanging, right? So giving them a let me get back to you on this and maybe give them a timeline. You're not saying I will do the work. Let me get back to you on this, you know, how we can do it. You will adapt it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on this. Once you finish, maybe I can.
Yeah, I can go on and on these, but yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay, thanks. So when we say any of these things, does it impact? Does it have any implications? Apart from, okay, you don't get the late night calls or, you know,
So,
do they keep it in mind, okay, no, at the performance time or this thing, no, this one is my favorite and yeah.
we will talk about these. Can there be an impact or not? It depends on your organization and how it is culturally set up, right? Now, this is where you have to take a call. Let's say your organization culturally, okay, is an organization which wants people to work like that. Then you recognize you're a culture misfit, right? Either you choose to look out, or you choose to fit in, or you choose to draw your boundaries and have alternate approaches to not impact your appraisal. Three options. And each of these three are equally viable options, right? Moving out is a viable option. You don't have to put in that much effort and fight. But if you want to put in that much effort and fight, then what do you do? Sec. There are some things, okay, over here. No, not this one. I will just put it up 1 second. I'll just talk about them for now. All right. Start maintaining a daily journal of the stuff that you did. If you want, go consultant style, put a timesheet. Now we all take breaks. Dekho, everybody takes their sutta breaks. Everybody goes for their bakar breaks. It's okay. If you, and this is a legit hack in life, तुमको 1 घंटा लगता है, normal इंसान को 3 घंटा लगेगा. If you are going to take an hour and somebody else is going to take 3 hours, right? Then what do? You also take 3 hours. Don't try to be this, oh my God, look at me, I am amazing, I did it in 1 hour. All you're doing is inviting extra work. Schedule the email. You don't have to sit for 3 hours and think about it. Schedule an email. Keep a timesheet for yourself if you want. But every day there is something called Microsoft OneNote. It is beautiful. You can use that. You can use Keep. You can use Evernote. Just at the end of the day, write down kya kya kiya. What all did you do, right? Which includes thinking work. If you've spent 1 hour researching and thinking, please write down you spent an hour researching and thinking. I kid you not. So when I started running my personal branding modules, I used to be like, yeah, I mean, I know everybody tells me this is great value, but I'm just talking to this person because I love to be paid to talk. So it's very easy for me to come up with solutions and talk about them. Then I actually sat down and I wrote a process note. And when I wrote the process note, I realized that for what I'm charging X, a consultant would charge 10X just for that much. We're not used to being paid for just knowledge. So please put in your thinking tasks. Please mention admin tasks, especially if that took half an hour. One weird thing took half an hour. Put it there. So you have a daily journal, weekly or mid-weekly. Okay, and this will apply actually to even bullying. This applies, right? If you are micromanaging managers, weekly or mid-weekly, send an update. You may edit it, but it's already written every day. It takes 5 minutes to do it. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes. You're doing it at the end of the day. Is this doable? And also from performance appraisal POV, what happens is, we sit and we wonder, what did I do? What did I do? Just because you've written stuff down, you will start seeing patterns. It's a 5-minute addition in your work day, just 5 minutes. Can we all commit to doing that? Awesome. Cool. Anybody on the last two situations, do you want to kind of jump in and have ideas? And then I will take Diksha and Shagun. But I might be able to take only one of you.
Saran, can I go?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would want to know, especially in startup setup, right? A lot of things might happen after hours, right? A lot of times discussions, escalations, and you don't want to miss out on them as well. A lot of important decisions also are taken during that time. So in those cases, like how do you handle?
Simple, start late. Then you have to, because you're in a world where this happens, you will
Yeah.
not be able to change it, right?
Correct.
You can say, I will change 5 people's behavior. It's not going to change, buddy. Let's be real. There are
Yeah.
only 2 ways to handle it. 1, you start late.
Mm,
2, you build enough allies if you don't want to start late.
mm,
You build allies who don't like this. And
Mhm.
you all start doing some of it earlier and make other people feel, like FOMO is the point, right?
mhm. Yep, totally.
FOMO is the point. So how do I create FOMO? Start building a group of people who do it 5 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever hour works for you, right?
Mm,
And start positioning that. The third thing is straight up say, hey guys, this is affecting my mental health. Can we have these important conversations? Let's say your day is supposed to end at 6 p.m. Can we do these important conversation huddles at 6? But the fact is, unfortunately, in a startup setup, a lot of the important decision making actually happens when you're shooting the shit. Pardon
Yeah.
my French. When you're sitting in the office, you're doing time pass, कोई darts खेल रहा है, TT खेल रहा है, तभी होता है. Correct, correct me if I'm wrong, Shagun.
No, you're correct.
Right? Because that is, now this is the creative process. You can't beyond the point change this process. Which is why if you see a
Correct.
lot of people in entertainment, they don't work in office setups necessarily.
Mm,
Because it enables a certain kind of thinking,
mm,
right? So we can't go and fight every single thing. We have to find ways to adapt to it, right? And if you think, oh, invariably I've seen these conversations happen over TT or table
Yeah.
tennis. I
Correct.
am very bad at table tennis. I started getting 2-3 people to tell me, teach me table tennis. And then I would take them, they start liking me more because they're helping me.
Mm,
2, because now I am teaching one person, 2 more will follow.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be overt. There are covert ways to do things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Totally does.
Awesome. Great, Shagun.
And also, I would want to know, so, I mean, this is still possible if it's a, work from office setup. In work from home setup, where you're not meeting that often, right? It's normally just a WhatsApp chat or a Slack chat. In those cases, like, how do you position yourself? Because then making allies, and especially in chats, the messages don't get delivered that clearly, I would say, especially when you're trying to build an ally or, point out that, hey, there's a great discussion going, and you put it down that, hey, this is.
Also, the ally building cannot happen in the moment, right? You have to build allies over time. So it becomes like, hey, let's say there are 2 of you, okay, who hate these late night things, but it's happening, right? There is one way is you find somebody who generally likes being on, and you kind of, plug them in, win them over, and tell them that, if you think something important is happening, can you, you either have a code word or a code emoji or something like that, can you tag me in? Or if you feel that you don't have the comfort zone with somebody like that, then if you find that one more ally, right? In that case, what you do is you all take turns. See, you have to be very practical.
Yeah,
I'm not
that
going
makes
to
sense.
talk about changing big things. That's not my job today. It's very tactical things today.
No,
Yeah.
man, these small things are the only ones. Like big things do not happen overnight, right? It's a small thing process that takes over time. So no, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Awesome. I will have to go over to the next session. Section. I can't believe how behind time we are. Right. So yes, just a second. Yes, what is the next section? Shweta.
The next one is standing up to bullying.
Cool. Quickly, we're going to take only 2 instances if Anamika and Vasavi, yours are related to bullying keep your hand raised. If they're not, just reduce, like lower your hand so that I can kind of take up a instance from somebody who's related to bullying.
We've
Okay.
got Vasudevi and Diksha.
Bhakti and Diksha. All right, Diksha.
Hi, Vasudevi this side.
Yeah, hi Vasudevi.
So Saloni, I would like to put across two instances. So I work for a corporate in a business development team. So we are a very small crew and we are just starting out. So if you look at the value addition that I am bringing to the table, so I take care of mostly the technical stuff. But apart from that, me being the junior in the team, I am mostly in a way, told to take care of the admin work as well. So, and then suddenly something comes up. So it's the end of the day and they plan the travel tomorrow. So, and they come and tell you in the evening, can you please check on the travel arrangements for tomorrow? So I had did this a couple times or thrice, but I feel
Got it.
this only happens with me.
Okay,
And
Vasudevi, what is your role? You're in HR. Sorry to interrupt you because I'm going to keep a time check. Are you in HR? Are you doing? You're in BD, right?
yeah, I'm into business development and I take care of manufacturing part for the business.
Yeah, but invariably all travel arrangements fall on you because woman, correct?
Yes, yes.
Cool. Very simple hack, one-time effort hack. Build a list, all right, and say my patented way to find the best, travel deals. Sites. Let's say you use a Sky Scanner or whatever. These are the resource links, all right. Please use these. Just put it up that hey, it seems like everybody. I realize that we all are struggling to book travel, which is why I have become the travel go-to person. Sharing a handbook so that there's something be thoda sa sarcastic. It's okay, right? And if they tell you, "Okay, अरे नहीं कल का book करो," no, I have a client call. Bluff it. चलेगा 5 बार नहीं करोगी. What Shubhasini, right, said earlier. It is about enough times that it doesn't happen. See, we all now work with mental models. So when growing up, you would have been a different person, right? So everybody has an idea of the way you function. And if you change that way now, they go like, oh, tum badal gaye. But new people, you will notice, address and respect your boundaries much better. Because we all learn how to build boundaries over time, right? So all you have to do is reiterate the boundaries. And if somebody says, oh, you have changed, yeah, man, I have a lot more on my plate. I have built a better pipeline, right? I have my if they're doing this time, I want to hit 150% target numbers, which means I'm prioritizing. See, focus on target because you're in BD, you can do that. Second, start talking about time management and efficiency and saying how you are you are getting extremely efficient on your time, right? So 2 weeks ago, I attended a workshop on time management by an amazing person called Shruti Devra, right? So there are these tools which you can use called timesheets. There's the add-on, right? And you can start blocking out along with help, client call, whatever hashtags, and to generate a report for you. That is something you can do. Or just start using calendar very, very well. That if you have learning, put it in. What this does is that if people do KitKat, and you can always have a public calendar. What that does is it just shows busy, busy, busy. It doesn't say what you're busy with, right? Put in if you want, some days put in a 30-minute block, some days put in a 45-minute block, ensuring that whatever is your end of day, you will know कि हाँ, every day na 6:30 or 7:30 के बीच में only this request comes. Just have a block. Have a block. See, one is be non-reachable, but if you think that may have adverse impact on you, just look like you have more work to do. Right? So that you stop becoming the go-to person. Cool. Diksha, Vasavi, you may have one more, but I have to give everybody a chance. So Diksha, thank you, Vasavi.
Hi, Saloni, very interesting session. So I think I have a thing on bullying, which is very subtle and it's happening as part of a lot of processes, right? And this happens through the feedback process, which may be part of manager development, performance assessment, or whatever, right? Where, discrete events or, concrete events are not shared, but then everybody is talking about the perception which is
by that feedback, right? And then you have peers and seniors and your stakeholders talking about it to get things done by you. How do you manage that situation?
I just
Right,
want to
when you have
make
to-
sure I have got it correct. You're saying that people don't look at your overall performance, they look at individual instances where something is messed up and they build
Right.
perceptions on that.
No, so they kind of, so there is a feedback. Suppose most of the organizations have feedback process, right? Now, who are the people giving feedbacks? They would be your peers, maybe
Peers,
juniors,
managers and juniors, typically.
juniors,
it's
right? Or
juniors.
stakeholders. Now, what happens is there are 2-3 people where this feedback gets consolidated, maybe one at a skip level, one at your
Got it.
manager.
Yeah.
Now, when managers meet, talk, right? They share this, perception get built. Nobody talks about the specific instance or nobody wants to use it in a corrective measure, but they use it to get things done. Acha, ye nahi karogi. So, this
Carrot, they dangle a carrot at you. Is that what
carrot,
you're
yeah. And they'll say that, if you'll say no to this, your perception is already being built. We have already received this feedback from your stakeholder.
Cool.
They will not
Awesome.
listen
Got
to the point.
Got Got
right?
it. I'm sorry, Diksha, I'm keeping it short because I
No
have a
worries.
lot to speak on this. So when these things happen, when somebody says your perception has been built, what do? Right? You ask them, oh, so put them on the spot. Spotlighting is a great way to handle this. Oh, on what instance do you feel have I displayed this behavior? Oh, all right. Okay. Do you think this is an accurate perception? No. Okay. If not, would you be willing to be my sponsor for this? Right? The more you're able to make people your sponsors, your allies, it helps. This is post hoc, corrective measures, right? Then there is something called preventive measures, which is where at the start of the session today, I said, we all have to build our brands. Either there are 3 things that can happen with you. You're not memorable. Nobody remembers you only. You're like invisible, which is the worst thing to happen, right? The second thing that happens is people are creating their own ideas and perceptions about your brand, and some idea and image has been created, which is very different. The third and the most powerful thing is you have curated Diksha, the brand, right? How she functions, who she is, right? This curation takes effort and work, which means you need to work on building individual relationships with key influencers. Sit and write down who are the key influencers. Try to find 1 or 2 people who are influential. They may or may not be powerful designation ways, right? Build that because those people will talk on your behalf, right? And the other thing to do with these people is talk very kindly about the person who's spoken bad about you. Don't go bitch about them, right? Say good things and be like, I know, but you know what? This person is so good at the ABC and be authentic. Find those 2 or 3 positive things. It will go back to them. Don't go directly to them. That will look like ass licking. Go via people. Find the blabbermouth. Find the BBC News and use them to get the positive word spread. Because when somebody is talking good about you behind your back, you feel guilty. Does that make sense? I mean, I cannot get into branding. It's a huge topic for me.
No, I understand. I understand. I think the point where you said that you need to ask about specific instances and then ask about sponsorship, because I stop at asking about specific instances and they kind of, while away from, oh, not something I can't remember, but they did mention in a conversation and all of that. And they'll just, take a segue from the main topic. So I think sponsorship is a very strong point, which I'll take away.
Yeah. And sometimes, the feedback is real and it is valid. And then your job is to ask, hey, don't tell me one instance, tell me sustainably, how can I do this? The minute you use the word sustainably, you change the table of negotiation and you actually help yourself better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Anybody wants to add in anything in the last 2 instances before we move to the next one? Or if we have, I can, Shweta, would you want me to take one more bullying or move on? Because we have a lot to cover.
I think we can take one more.
One more. Awesome.
Subhashini has her hand up.
Yes, Shubhasini.
No, just one suggestion or rather comment, because I have been through some pretty serious bullying in my ex-organization. And for some reason, I was just quiet about it the whole time. And it was very apparent, like it was pretty toxic, right? So, and my point is that if you've anyway chosen to leave, right, then give it back, because that's the closure we will need. And later you don't want to sit and mope about it and regret it. So like, I just feel like I should have given it back. The time was right, but I kept quiet, because, and the best way sometimes to deal with bullies is to bully back, but it's super hard for women to do, super hard. But if you've already decided that you're going to move on and you have nothing to lose, then just, I mean, and you don't have to be like rude, or, you know, there are ways that you can give it back and still be maintain
Can you
your
give one
dignity.
instance, Shivasani?
So-
Because this is the piece that people struggle with. Everybody knows there are ways, they don't know how. I would love for you to share an instance.
No, Saloni, what I'm saying is this is a lesson I've learned. I did not give it back. I left the organization graciously because I thought I was being gracious. But the point is, now I ponder and wonder and say, oh, I wish, oh, but that ship has sailed. And I'm quite senior, and if I couldn't do it, it's just,
Yeah.
something I have to live with. So I think you should just do it. And it can be just one statement, but it will hurt the individual who's bullied you.
So
And so
in that case, Shivasani, I will share a situation. I was working at a company, and in that company, there was something I had not done. It was a miss at my team's end because we were juggling 5 priorities. I spoke to my not even dotted line, I would say I spoke to the relevant stakeholder of the other team. And I told him, hey boss, we had a call in the morning. I was like, hey boss, I get it. This is a miss at our end. Give me till evening. I will sort it out and I will have it sent over to you. Admitted my mistake, came to an alignment on what needs to be done. We are on board. Then there was a group call with 20 people across the nation, across all India teams. And this man chose to bring that up out of the blue. I kid you not, this is exactly what I did. He spoke, he like, Saloni's team has not done this, blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, Nitin, masked name. Hey, Nitin, we spoke about this in the morning, didn't we? We came to an alignment. Yeah, but your team is not. I was like, yes, we came to an alignment and we spoke about it. Is it relevant to the larger group? Are we talking about it? No. I was like, you are, and I literally had to do this. You are not letting me talk. This is not relevant. We will have a separate conversation offline if you want. We will have a separate conversation offline if you want. He did not stop. And then at that point, I was like, now this is becoming harassment. You are not letting me talk. I have had this conversation with you. It doesn't pertain to the group. Stop harassing me. The minute a woman says harassing me, it is a red flag, bro. You have to be very careful when you use it. I let something escalate, right? I knew this guy will do this. He is known for bullying everybody, not just women. And I knew he is a bully about it. And he was known that if you say a no, he will take it, but he will put pressure from somewhere else on your team, right? So I ensured that I let it escalate. I kept my cool. Then when I exploded, it was valid. My boss, because uske pocket mein baith hai, that guy sits in his pocket. My boss only intervened when I said, now this is becoming harassing. And because it was happening publicly, there was no option left. Because I had stayed calm, he had boiled up and up and up. And I'm saying, we've discussed this. I have agreed it's my mistake. It will be done later. This is not relevant to 20 people. You're wasting 20 people's time. And he kept interrupting me. And I kept saying, let me finish. And I'm already a very vocal person, so you can imagine. Then I was like, you are harassing me now. The boss stepped in one go and diffused the situation. So please do not be worried about playing the game a little bit.
I think there's a comment from Deepa where she says, I don't believe in giving back, as some might have bullied you, but there may be connections there. In the future, you don't want to burn bridges. And trust me, I have never burned bridges. Every workplace, every job has been because of networking, right? But if the person has been a real XXX hole, he's not going to help you anyway, or the cronies around him are not going to help you anyway. What is the point in building bridges with people who don't give a shit about you? So it's okay. That's my counter, but I respect.
I agree with you, Shivasani. So the founder at one of the startups I worked, he and I used to have matches. Like we've had, and at some point it was like, we used to have heated debates. We've had all kinds of drama. The thing is, I still meet him for lunch once in a while. And about a year and a half into me doing my own thing, we met for lunch and he's like, we always thought of bringing you back as a consultant. And that happened. And this is somebody founder have told on his face, I cannot deal with this drama. You and the other founder figure it out. Don't pull me into your drama. I have literally said these words. And that person still was trying to find a way to hire me back and recognize that we are incompatible personalities and was like, I need to find somebody who, you can work with. Wanted to go out of his way to see how I can work with him. Then called me back to discuss a potential consulting opportunity for his new startup. It didn't align to what I do. I did not burn bridges. It's a myth that, oh my God, stop living in fear. Stop living in fear, because if you have talent, you bring something to the table, they need you. It's as simple as that. There are 1 billion people in India, but talent is itna, so much, right? And people value talent. Cool. Awesome. Sneha, I will take your instance at the end. I will hang back and I will take your instance. Is that okay? The maternity leave one, or I will take it when we do bias.
Yeah, sure.
Khushi said, this boss was my founder. And we're going into interruption, so we'll address it. But I'm talking about my founder. Well, he's the ultimate boss. One of the ultimate bosses. Who above a founder? Right. Awesome. Shweta, should we go to the next section?
One more thing just to add to this, a lot of times what happens is that when you use these strong terms as well, they kind of term you as well, right? That, she can bring this in and, she casually throws around these words. I mean, I've seen that happening and I really respect those women, but I have never done that myself. And secondly, a lot of time you would see that men just side with other men, right? So in those cases, even though like you are right and, probably the bigger group will tell you are right, men just side with other men even when they are wrong, especially when they are in, positions of power and you are a junior. So in those cases, how do you handle
this? One, if you notice in the example I gave, I let it escalate publicly from the man's side.
Yeah.
Right? So it was a public thing. And I only said it after trying 5 other things. In this instance, there are other instances where you will have to say it right up front if they're being uncomfortable with you or whatever. The second thing that you can do is start seeding it, putting it in the grapevine. See, listen, this is the world, huh? This is how the world works. Stop. We don't have to be these Satyavadi, Harishchandra, Sita Mayas. That's not our job. Okay. So pepper it into the grapevine that this person does this. I don't know. I don't want to call it out. It will affect my performance. Feel free to put it out there. Right. Let the men go and warn him. Bro, dude, she's thinking about it. Toe the line. Right? She's thinking about it, toe the line. Third thing, get 4 or 5 male people to mentor you separately. Listen, this is the world. I'm in sales. Sometimes you have to handle the ego. That doesn't mean extra ass licking. You just handle their ego. It's as simple as this. I had a client. This client was very, very, very pissing off. Okay, a very intelligent client. During my performance appraisal, he didn't know what's happening. He called up my boss and said, I want Saloni off my, off my project. My boss said, this is the call I've got. What do you want to do? How do you rate yourself for this client? I said, I rate myself 1 on 5. Why? Because you don't let me do my job. Every time I go back with a response or a no, which we are supposed to do as per our policy, he calls you and you do the exception. So I have no authority or value. So you might as well take me off the project. My boss was shocked. No, you stay. Because he knew that that project is a thorny one. That same man who had asked my boss to take Saloni off the project when I quit that company, called me saying, I have a role open in my team. Do you want to join? So please understand, these are very convoluted behaviors. His junior, what she has to do, she's like, listen, he needs an ego boost. Even though I know the 100% accurate thing, I will make 1 or 2 minor mistakes. I will let him correct me so that he feels like he did something. And then I will give him the final piece.
Yeah.
Very smart. I loved it. I was like, bro, you're so smart. Right? Play the game. People, it's okay. Our job is to do the job and to get ahead in life. And just the way when you have to handle a client and you handle crisis management, you find your way around it. It's the same internal clients. Everybody is your internal client. Treat it like that. I know it seems a little like, oh my God, what is she saying? But this is the reality of life.
No, I have realized that too, actually. That, treat your company people as well as your internal clients. I totally agree with that.
Awesome. Cool.
Saloni, you have actually answered one of my questions. Like, I am having a tiff with one of my senior managers. What is happening is I am handling a project, and it has happened in the past also. I have just started off after a break. So when I joined the organization, I was handed over a project where a little bit of aggressive attitude was needed because nobody was following anything. So he wanted to take he wanted to project it in a different way in front of the senior management. And I said, no, this is not how it is going to be, because this is how the project is and things are flowing fine. Then why do you want to project a different picture? So there a disagreement happened. And then what he started is, he started me pointing out all the minor things, or all the minor, in any case you will ignore. Like, if you are coming like around 10 and you come
Minor
sometime around 10,
infractions, you
15
will make a big deal about smaller
in front of our senior director.
Got it. And this was your manager?
No, he is not, but he is the resource manager and I am the project manager.
So your peer?
Matlab, hierarchy wise, he is senior to me, but actually
dotted line, not direct line.
Not direct line. So what I started doing is, I started pointing out what is his mistakes when in front of the same director.
What you've done is
So
you've gone into a ugly war.
Yes, that has happened. And now what is happening is, yesterday he included my manager, and have I lost the line? Hello?
No, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. So what has happened is, project line timeline extension has happened, but I was not included in the meeting. But the decision was taken for my project. So that is what I was trying. I conveyed that to my manager, that he might as well take it up himself, because he is not respecting the boundaries that he has only put in, that I'll be managing the project. You are on mute, Saloni.
Sorry, something's happening. Hi, so sorry. I just had an internet issue with the rains. We can't help this. Awesome. So what I understand is you've gone into a war with your resource manager, and you're both going to the senior director and like kids. And I'm sorry, but like kids complaining about minor infractions.
No, I'm not complaining against him. What is happening is, let's say the senior manager is there. In his presence, he will just put a comment on me for no reason. Okay. And he has this ugly habit of doing with everybody, so that his image is being maintained.
Okay, so what you need to do in this case, one is, if he's publicly putting you down, you have the idea, but use humor. All right. For example, he talks about, oh, you come by 10:15, 10 o'clock, something that stupid and that pithy. And you'd be like, it's amazing how you have time to observe such minor things and not, let's actually focus on ABC, right? Don't call him out. It is amazing how you have the time to observe such minor details. Let's actually focus on, just the word actually focus, or just sarcastically, great observation skills. Just humor and sarcasm will win hearts. The same thing if you say, oh, you always look at all these minor things, blah, blah, blah. Not helping. Not helping at all. It's just making you look like this person who loses her cool. Right? The other thing to do is ignore. Ignore there. Go to the director separately, right? And be like, hey, I want to have a chat with you, right? It seems like, the focus is moving away from the work to these small minor issues. And I think it's taking up too much unnecessary headspace. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it like, it seems almost like reputation control, right? So just wanted to align with you. I don't want to make a public spectacle or a debacle about this. That is the second approach. The third thing you can do is become friends with the resource manager.
Impossible. I have tried that. He has a habit of cutting people short in a way that will hurt them. That is his reputation, because everybody is very observant and very what to say, guarded when it comes to
So
him.
if you have the capability and the standing and the guts to say, I will not work with this person anymore, please bring in another resource manager if they exist.
That is also not possible
Saloni,
because
can we
he's
move on to the
very
next
close to
topic?
the
We may
senior
just be spending a
director.
lot of time on this. Madhu, can we take this after the rest of the session is
Sure,
there?
sure. Yeah, we can.
Sure. Awesome. Cool. Next one.
Next, so the next was, so we were talking about interruptions and then we go to bias-laden questions.
Bias related or interruptions? We're taking interruptions first, right?
We're taking interruptions first.
Cool. Awesome. I'm going to open it up for one or two because I have a whole lot of material on interruptions I want to kind of share with everybody. So go for it. Anybody wants to raise their hand?
Yeah, so Saloni, it happened with me. That is like we are having a call with the business. So there is one person called Vinod. So what happened is like, it is not the first time, he has done it multiple times. If you are trying to speak something, he will just stop you and not let you come back into the conversation.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to address, there is a very structured way, right, to do this. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. Now, when we come to interruptions, all right, body language, turn away. Body language is huge. Please remember, 90% communication is non-verbal, right? So just turn away. See, we all have cues of rejection that happen. Turning away from the person, turning your back to them and talking to somebody else. Continue the conversation somewhere else. Start a parallel conversation until somebody pipes down, right? The other thing is roll your eyes very visibly, just like, or you sigh, you roll your eyes, right? You're not saying anything, but you're being very, like what Shivasini just, kind of just did this. That really works, right? Put a hand forward, right? Like, hey, or just put it in front of you at the table to kind of establish dominance. You've seen it, right? In Wolf of Wall Street. Leonardo DiCaprio does this. You don't have to be loud. Just put a hand forward. The other thing is raise your hand. Keep it raised, keep it raised, keep it raised. It gets irritating to the other people. And then you talk, but you're being patient. You're keeping your grace. Using your hand as a stop sign. Oh, pardon the typo. Using your hand as a stop sign. I have actually done this. I have put my hand nearly in the face of the other person, but far away, where I'm just like, as I was saying, right? Stand up. Now, this is the most dramatic of them all, but stand up very comfortably. Just go like, not stand up on the side, but go like that. And start like, just push your chair back. Even if you just do so much and you pretend to stand up and you sit down, people will. So find small ways to draw attention back to you. You can cough, you can sneeze, whatever you have to do. The other thing that you can do is build allies. If you know that there are these people who interrupt you, and I'm sure this happens to a bunch of you, build allies before. So it is behind the scenes, right? That, okay, and especially if you have other women who are your friends, that bro, we get interrupted. If somebody is interrupting me, you jump in and be like, hey, as Sheetal was saying, right? Or hey, as Arushi was saying, right? Do that. You'll become each other's champions, right? Get a buy-in. If it's an agenda you're going to propose, a project you're going to propose, have those individual conversations with key stakeholders offline, right? Get a prima facie buy-in so that in the meeting, it is, if you have majority yeses coming in or even 3 yeses coming in, the other people tend to follow suit. They'll be like, oh my God, this is so much work. No, this is business. This is how it happens for men and women. Does that make sense? This is sales 101. If you don't have a buy-in from your stakeholders and you propose it for the first time in a meeting, chances are not very high that it will actually get anywhere, right? You will struggle much harder. So the relative struggle of getting the buy-in allows you to build a network, build allies, and get your ideas pushed through, and allows you to clarify and understand what each person may have as objections and plan for it. Does that make sense? So getting buy-ins behind the scenes is huge. Give and ask for agendas. If you think there is somebody who tends to disrupt the meeting, If you're running the meeting, give agendas and tell them that this is what is allocated. If anybody has something to add, let me know beforehand. If you are a participant in the meeting, ask for agendas. Can you tell me what are we going to be talking about? Right? This forces the other person to come with clarity and not jump something on you. Right? And normally ask for them on email so that they send it in email. Make it a practice of the way you work. You do it in your meetings, and then when you ask for it, you're not in the wrong. Right? For senior folks, you can legit, I think we have a few senior folks here, create a user guide for working with you, right? From when are calls expected, when are, Zoom meetings expected, how do you expect feedback? It's a great way to do this. Now, if you were absolutely not allowed to talk in the meeting, after the meeting, send a meeting note saying, hey, I could not share this since we ran out of time. Or if you had started the idea, fleshing out the idea I had shared and stuff like that, right? So these are your behind the scenes options. Then there are certain other behaviors. Sit near the front. If it is a leader meeting where your leaders are sitting, please, women tend to have a habit, they want to shrink into the background. Please go sit next to where the leader will be. Sit near the front. If you're in a peer meeting, try to get the head of the table. If you can't get the head of the table, right, then try to sit in the center. Don't sit at the corners. Head of the table means there is one chair in a rectangle table, right? Otherwise, sit in the middle. Never pick corners because you are then not heard. In the middle, you can project your voice to both directions, right? If you're running presentations where you're standing and you're a team, do not hide in the corners. Stand visibly, wear whatever clothes make you feel confident and comfortable, right? Wear clothes which make you feel confident. If you want, wear sexy lingerie on the inside to feel good about yourself. I legit do that. The days I think I'm feeling whatever, I will wear good innerwear, which makes me very confident, right? Do stuff like that. Tone of voice. If you're interrupted, now the common knowledge is speak in a low tone if you're not a loud person. I'm modifying it a little bit. Go high and then go low. Why are you going high? To kind of gather attention and then you go low. Voice modulation is the best way to hold attention. I actually did that right now while talking to you so that you see. I was like, voice modulation is the best way to hold attention. You see how much register movement happened? Right? This is a good communication hack in general. Use gestures. The more you use your hands, the more engaged you have people. If you don't want people to interrupt you, hand ulta on the table like this. And if you want to invite conversation, hand open, palms open on the table. These are research-backed things. I was watching this amazing video today morning on how do you be charismatic, and I'm picking it from there. This is not just my ideas, right? I will find the link. I will share the link with Shweta. She can send it to all of you. Silence. Keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet. Follow it with a blank stare. And now if somebody is interrupting you and you don't want them to interrupt you, look at their forehead instead of their eyes. It will bother them, right? Nobody wants to be rejected. Make them feel rejected with your body language. Now, if you tend to be interrupted, don't pause between 2 points. Where do you pause? In the middle. We should do this because. Pause and then continue. But the second point you should rush into. But the reason you take those pauses or those pregnant pauses is you don't want to sound like a rail gadi. You see how after I took a very mini pause. Because this is an area of interest. You want to know what I'm going to say. So do that. And if you tend to be interrupted, speak at the start or speak at the end. Like there is a whole lot you can do when it comes to being interrupted, right? If you're somebody who's comfortable being loud, go for it. If you're an introvert, please use these meeting agenda ideas very well, right? It in fact shows how well you've captured. Do some note taking if you have to. Add a few ideas. The thing is, email it. Don't sit quietly saying, hi, Tauba, I too didn't get a chance to talk. You can be heard on multiple mediums. Does that make sense? Right. Now, Subhashini, what you just said, lovely ideas, right? As I was saying, I'm not done talking. Let me finish, right? Please let me finish if you want to be nice. If it happens multiple times, see, the persistence is the key. I'm not done talking. That person continues after a sentence. I'm not done talking. If you are okay being aggressive, to continue. If they keep talking, you continue with I'm not done talking, or you continue with your point, just get louder than them. It depends on your vibe and the situation. Otherwise, after every one sentence, I was not done talking. Or you keep quiet and then you be like, I'm feeling constantly interrupted. I'm not being allowed to finish. Can I get a 1 minute silence zone? Now that 1 minute can extend to 2 if you need it. But just by asking for it, you're setting it up. Going back to what I was saying. Now this last one, remember just a while ago, I said, so if you are Sheetal, and Sheetal for that 1 second looked up at the screen like she just did. Because the minute we hear our names, we go and listen to, my name was taken. Right? If possible, address the leader. Right? If there is not too much of a power distance, address the leader and be like, Nehal, what is your opinion? What do you think? Nehal, should we address this right now? Or do you want this idea later? Because it seems like there's chaos. Right? But use a name. Now, if somebody has, anybody wants to add anything to this? Otherwise, I want to talk about people who steal your ideas or, take your point and kind of adapt it as theirs. Anybody?
I want to talk about the biases actually. So it can be a bias or it can be mixed with bullying or something like that. So
Be loud.
I-
It's hard to follow.
hello,
this.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have faced I have around 9 years of experience. So I have faced this multiple times in multiple organizations, that being the only woman, and somehow I end up being the only woman or the minority. And I have to talk to a lot of higher authority people and all, but they are not very familiar with such kind of environment where they on a day basis they talk to a woman, and they avoid eye contact, and they do not intend to exclude me in decision making or discussion or anything like that, but they probably subconsciously or invariably they exclude me, and I have to literally बहुत हाथ पाँव मारने जैसा, I have to be come across too strong and aggressive, which is kind of energy draining. I would rather spend these times in something more productive, but it's kind of very exhausting multiple times. So
the only way
yeah.
around this, right? Because you are in a environment which is male dominated. All right, there are a couple ways to handle it. One is you pick a few males and build them as allies separately, right? And tell them that, you know what, I sometimes feel like I don't have this space, or, hey, because I see you look at everybody, you don't look at me. You figure who you should do this with. Huh? You have to be judicious, right? And have those separate, I call them backdoor conversations. The other thing is you stand up, literally when you're making your point, you stand up and force people to look at you. Use gestures. So if they're not making eye contact, it's okay. They can look at your hands. Gestures is a great way to engage audience, right? Do that. The third, if you feel like they're not taking you into decision making, be like, this is what I feel. Do it 4 times, just use a tally mark. Then go to 1 or 2 leaders and be like, you know what, I kept feeling like this and I wanted to check whether I am thinking it or it's actually happening. I actually put a tally mark every time I was not taken into consideration while making the decision. I don't want to fight so much. It shouldn't be so much of a fight. It happened 6 times and I fought back. When you go with data like that, right, that I wanted to check if it was my perception or the reality. What happens is now you're not a mad woman. Because these men talk like that. I'm using the language they use. Are kit karte hai.
Right.
Go with the data. I put a tally mark. And you're taking the honest thing. I wanted to check if this was my perception or reality, so I checked it. Right? And be like, I get it. Maybe, unconsciously do it. Can you help me consciously be part of the decision? Ask. More often than not, we shy away from asking it directly. Data helps. And also reflect on, are you doing enough to be heard? Because, babe, you have to do your part. You can't expect anybody to open up and be like, please, madam, come talk, tell us what you feel. It doesn't happen to the men also. Okay, you have to carve your space. Unfortunately, this is the reality of the world. You have to carve your space. Either you do it in person, or you write it in an email, or you have your separate conversations. But to say, oh, people should create space for me and open it up for me, it's not happening in corporate. Because it is a competitive world out there, and it happens to men and women alike. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It happens to, honestly, what I've experienced, it happens to everybody. But somehow I feel that there are certain instances which is only reserved for women. So, yeah.
Absolutely, which is where let not being a woman become your log.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is happening to other people also. In some instances, it's happening to women, but then even those men are dealing with it now. So let's learn those skills. And I'm not
Right.
saying I'm a hardcore feminist. I'm just saying let's not let our being women become the roadblock to our lives. Right? Let's find the skills and actually much better. Communication, navigating, non-verbal cues, huge skill to learn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we go ahead, yeah, one more thing, summary. Now, if somebody takes a point you were making, a great point, and then they try to pass it off as their own, couple of things you can say. Oh, you have such great summary skills, right? The other one, I'll just tell you, I have it in my dump. So I had created a dump of things that we can do. Let me open it up for myself. And you can write these down, okay? If you want. Thank you for summarizing what I said. You really have great summary skills. My favorite one. Thanks, you perfectly understood what I was saying. So you are actually praising this person, but you're not, that is your way of letting others know that this is what you said. Instead of like, oh, I originally made the point, you sound like a child. So you don't want to sound like a child? Hey, you perfectly understood what I was saying. In fact, what do you think about ask a deeper question? Because this person has no knowledge. They don't have the depth you have. They will flounder and they will look like idiots. You have done nothing wrong. You've not even put them on the spot badly. They will look like idiots. 3 times you do this, 4th time you see they will not take your, they will not try to steal your point. But if you think they will have the depth, then don't ask this question, please. Then just stick to, oh, you perfectly understood this. I think we should collaborate on this. Are you, I'm happy to lead this. Take the lead yourself. I'm happy to lead this. And I think we should collaborate. He can't lead it because you've already highlighted and said, I am happy to lead it. And you've said collaborate. What will they say? See, these are very subtle ways to take the power back. Does that make sense? I have only 2 people on video, so I'm struggling to figure out whether this is resonating or not. Right? Awesome. Amazing. Also, what I just did, communication hack. I could have just said, can you put your videos on? But by me saying this, at least 1 or 2 people were like, oh, okay, there is a reason she wants the videos on. Right? So find alternative ways, give people a reason to help you instead of complaining. Right? Convert it to why we should help you. All right. We have biases left. We have hit time. It is 12:30. I am happy to stay for 30 more minutes if need be, but I have a hard stop at 1. Shweta, what do you want to do?
I think we can we can continue the bias piece, and in case someone has other commitments, they could drop out. We'll have a summary available for the ones who miss out.
Awesome. In case people do drop out, Shweta, would it be possible to send the feedback form to them later?
Yes, I'll do that.
Awesome. Great. But yeah, the rest of you, before we drop out, after we do biases, I would want you to just share the feedback form in the session itself. Worked in a feedback company, have learned it's a difference between 100% response and 20% response. Can I have that much help from you before I continue with bias? Awesome. So I will send the feedback form at the end of the session. Great. Biases. Again, the floor is open. Go for it. And Shubhasini, amazing points in the chat box. A bunch of what you've said is what is also on the slide, because these are things Awesome. Go for it.
I think all of us have had bias related interview questions. I remember appearing for an interview, and I had the founder, the CEO of the company asking me, so you already have a child. How do you intend to manage your work? Okay, now that you're going to come back from this. And this was like 1 year after maternity leave. Okay, and this person is still saying, you have a little child, how will you work? Sort of thing, right? And at that point in time, I responded, I have a fabulous support system at work, as well as at home. So I think we are sorted and we can focus on work. Okay. So, and that just sort of shut him on that front. And then we talked about the interview. But all of us have had questions where we asked about, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? If you have small kids, who's taking care of them? If you have older kids, who is taking care of them? You have a husband, family, sort of thing. So those questions, how do you answer?
So when I was asked this, do you have any plans to get married? Because I'm 34, going to turn 34 in a couple of months and single. And I was asked this 4 years ago when I was 30. I just looked that person dead in the eyes, straight. And I was like, I'm very curious. And I actually said, I'm curious, why do you want to know this? What's the purpose of this question? And he said, no, a lot of women, after getting married, we've had this instance that a lot of women after getting married, they take 2 months off. Now, while at the outset, it felt like a biased question to me and it really pissed me off. And I was still pissed after he gave me the reasoning, but he had a reasoning based on past instance. Right. So I told him, hey, I would have appreciated if you would have asked me whether, I plan to take 2 months off at any point, because even though I'm single, I could take it because I want to go travel. All right. I did that. You may or may not want to do it. But just asking, what is the purpose of asking me this question, whether I have kids, whether I have family, whether I'm going to get married, to understand, ask them so that you can understand what they care about, or ask them, how is this relevant to the role? If it is about availability, see, the truth is, if it is not an organization which has work-life balance, which offers flexi benefits, if it is that kind of an organization, and if they ask you this, you say, hey, the reason I applied here is you all have mentioned you all offer, you all are diversity, inclusive, you all have these benefits, and I assumed that I can take flexi timings. But if it is not an organization which openly calls it out, right? Then you ask them a follow-up. How is this relevant? What, very curious to understand, what are you trying to assess with this? And if it is a straight up, oh, you have a kid at home, how are you going to do it? Who's going to handle your husband? Be like, I am so lucky I have a feminist husband, or I'm so lucky I have a husband who doesn't think it's just my job, right? We both pitch in. So actually, that's not a problem. I'm sure you also have a wife at home and people at home, and like you have to manage them as well, right? And I'm sure you're doing a fabulous job at it, right? And I aim to do the same, because getting pissed off with it will not serve the purpose. See, if you're not interested in working with the company, call them out and be like, hey, this is an absolutely inappropriate, wrong question. But if you are looking to get hired, right, then, because, well, the fact is, sometimes you are going to get hired in a place where there is a manager who doesn't even realize how problematic the question is, right? This is how you can address them. Biases exist, stereotypes exist. Sometimes they exist because they have faced those instances, right? It doesn't make it okay. It is also about, where can I meet them to solve my purpose? Once you're in the company, you can always go back and tell them that, when you asked this was absolutely not okay, blah, blah, blah. There is a time and a place to educate, to create awareness, and to solve for your problem. You have to identify which one is which. Does that make sense? Shweta, since you brought the question up, does that make sense?
It does. And I think another hack that I've used over time, especially for bias related questions, is at that point in time, you say, I have a fabulous system in place, so that's not a concern. Later on, what you can do is you can keep bringing up instances where whether knowingly or unknowingly, they supported you. And you talk about, oh, my boss was very flexible with the meeting timings. It is helping us create the right culture in this organization, right? So keep praising, like it is some sort of an ego massage, but what it basically does is it very consciously seeds in the idea that this is a diverse, inclusive, flexible organization where we are looking to create this culture and all that, right? And because you are talking it out, you also become a champion of the company, the culture. So you are seen in a positive light. The boss can't really say, oh, don't be flexible from the next time on, because you've praised them for it, right? And you basically find that solution there. If we get into that mode of educating, people will believe you are the person who's going to give gyan. And that does not fly with most people around you. So that's something I use.
It's a brilliant, I call it the Pavlovian response, right? Every time they help you, you give them praise, you make them get that dopamine hit, right? So they like it more and more. The other thing, Shweta, this is such a cool hack, and this is something you should do for any problem, not just this bias problem, I feel, right? Every time they do something right, help them. So, in fact, it's a branding hack also. I am somebody who's very direct, right? I say things as is, straight up. I literally asked if I can swear in this session, right? I actually put it and package it as, I love people who are direct and who say things as is, because I know what to look out for. In fact, I'm a little wary of the people who beat around the bush and never directly tell you what is happening. What I have done is I have taken the quality about me, which I'm not worried about, but I know some people can take wrong, and shown it in a very positive light, and taken the opposite quality and shown how I am concerned. Now, because I have painted it in a positive light and I have packaged it a certain way, it is hard for somebody to come and say it the other way. In fact, you can talk about radical candor or whatever, share articles, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it. Start owning your narratives. Does that make sense? And Shweta is somebody who does a fabulous freaking job at this. I have to tell you this. I'm a huge fan of her in general. Awesome. Any other queries? There is a hack that Shweta had asked me to add, which was around agar half day le rahe ho. Right? Some things like if you are asked biased questions, I'm curious, how is that relevant? That is interesting with a follow-up if you want to follow up. Otherwise, just that is interesting and let the off-the-cuff remark go. Right? The other thing, many times you hear, oh, aap to half day le rahe ho, tumhe to ash hai, blah, blah, blah. You can go into a long spiel of all the things you have to do, which is not helping you. Right? In that moment, it's not helping you. In that moment, you can be like, yeah, I'm actually efficient. I get it done. You know, I don't take 20 breaks. Khatam. I'm efficient. I love efficiency. Time management. Start throwing all these words that we see in books on A, B, C, D, E. Use them to your advantage. It's okay. Right? And efficient. Now, who can crib about being efficient, boss? Who can crib about it? Nobody can. Awesome. That was us. That was me. Just a second. I just want to show you one more thing. It is not technically a part of today's session, but very quickly read this. This is how somebody is presenting themselves. 10 seconds. Right? Read? Everybody's read? This is the same person and this is their about section. Same person. Do you see a world of difference between this person and this person? This is all, obviously this is a resume section, summary section about herself that I've, snippeted out. But the fact is we are all doing this every day. We sound like this and then we wonder why we don't get the opportunities and the things we want, when we need to learn the skill of sounding like this, right? Emails. Womaning in India, brilliant newsletter. Mahima does a fabulous job. Lots of cool stuff to read there. This is how men write. This is what a woman would do. Going to what Deepa had mentioned, right? I explain so much. Men don't explain. They just write this. If you want, use ChatGPT. Make this sound more, to the point, remove over explanations, unnecessary justifications, or just ask yourself, if there is a man who talks like this, ask yourself, how would Vivek do it? Right? How would Amrish Puri say it? Like if you want, come up with a fake character, right? And reword. We don't need to do this. This devalues us. People have talked about power hierarchy. This is reducing your power. If you see all CEOs, they tend to write best with not even their name. Sometimes they leave an initial. Everybody else is writing their name. The CEO is writing an initial. It's a power play. They're taught to do it, by the way. Right? Power play in language is a huge thing. Right from the salutation to, how much information is given. Women tend to write too much. It will be great if you blah, blah, blah. The man will just write, please provide ABCD. Not even please, share so-and-so, khatam. Does that make sense?
Saloni, if I can just add on this, so there's a Grammarly plugin which detects the tone of your voice. So it says whether it's too friendly or whether it's confident. So based on the context, I think if we want it in a more confident tone, we can change the text accordingly. So that plugin has helped me quite a bit.
Lovely. So there's Grammarly plugin, then you can do ChatGPT, put in tone of voice. I'm not going to get into how do you create prompts for ChatGPT. That's a 1-hour conversation by itself. But yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Another
And
hack that
one
I
thing
have
to
for
add here-
emails is if I see that in an email I've written more than one please, okay, I go and rewrite. I go back and rewrite that entire email. Okay. Similarly, if I'm using more than 2 smileys, I need to go back and rewrite that email. And what that does is it makes, and I've realized that when I cut down on the number of pleases, on the number of emojis I'm putting in, number of kindlies I've put in, it basically makes me sound a lot more confident in that email. I'm happier about that. So that's my threshold. More than 2 please, I will rewrite. More than 2 smiley, I rewrite. So you can have your own threshold for that matter as well.
Yeah. And I
And
love
the
that
hack-
you're not removing the warmth, Shweta. You're still keeping the warmth. You're saying I will have 1 please, maybe 1 smiley, maybe. Yes,
So now one more question. So
Yeah.
suppose perception is already formed, right?
Yeah.
About you in the organization. What are the ways to change those perceptions also? Like, do you have any hacks around that, suppose this person, and it comes very easily for women that she's too bossy or, she's not requesting enough. And, a lot of times
I
those.
to own it, boss. Shagun, I to own it. And if somebody says that, I'm like, yeah, dude, boss lady vibes. I will make people talk about me as boss lady. I will literally make it a cool thing. See,
Hmm.
there was a time being geeky was a very uncool thing. Right?
Yeah.
And today, being geeky is the cool thing. People are going and buying geek merchandise.
Yeah.
Remember when we were in school, if you had a t-shirt saying pi something, or you had a physics joke, you would be made fun of.
Hmm.
The same thing today is what you do to fit into popular subcultures.
Hmm.
It is about positioning. This
Yeah.
is where sometimes you started, Baba. You say, yeah, I am boss lady. I love the fact. Once you say boss lady, 4 people start saying it will become positive. But you have to say it not apologetically, owning ways.
Hmm.
I spoke about this earlier, right? When I said, oh, I love people who are like this. Start saying, I look up to people, not just women. I look up to people who own blah, blah, blah. And I'm learning and emulating from them. In fact,
Hmm.
so take a name of a guy in your organization. So-and-so does this so well. I have learned this from him. Now, the minute don't say, oh, but wo bhi to karta hai. I have learned this from him.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Shagun, I would also like to add. So sometimes, like I used to be tagged aggressive. Early in my career, I would everyone would basically say she is very direct, she is aggressive, right? And what started happening is people would go to my boss, okay, and tell him, she was so strict on deadlines. She was very aggressive about deadlines and things on those lines. Okay, and I would get this as part of my year-end appraisal feedback. Okay. And the first time it happened, I was like, "Bhai, मैंने कहाँ लड़ाई झगड़ा किया है तुम्हारे साथ? I have not I'm not done हाथापाई with you. Why are you calling me aggressive?"
Yeah.
Okay. And then I realized a lot of it has to do with the culture of your organization. What is aggressive in one place is actually assertive in another, and maybe it is even lower passive in a third organization. So a lot of it has to do with your cultural context, right? So if you're in one organization, I was called passive because I was not as aggressive as the founder.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it is your So what you have to do is you have to figure out one, in the context of your organization, what is aggressive and what is assertive, right? And then you can tweak it to work for you, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of times, all that it needs is basically adding one adjective aage piche to whatever you are saying. Okay.
Hmm.
So, and once you do find out what is that adjective that flies in your organization, you
Hmm.
can actually make the same aggressive play look assertive for you.
Hmm. Okay. Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Saloni. Thanks.
Awesome. So I have put a feedback form link. If we can all take a minute to just fill this, and then I will continue with the Q&A. Is that fine? Also, there are a couple of things that I do run that I've shared over there. If you want more information, I will be putting my number up. I will put it up in chat also. I'll be putting it up otherwise also, right? You can just reach out to me on WhatsApp or express your interest in the form itself. Also, Shweta, great hack, by the way, the one on reframing it and like finding that one thing that kind of gains virality. Absolutely worth it.
We would love to take a picture quickly before we move on to the questions. So if everyone could turn on their videos and show us your big smiles,
I
that
think
would be
Mansi, we should
lovely.
always do this at the start also. That
I
people
think
see
so,
videos.
yeah.
Yeah, we can all take a minute to get our hair to look lovely. I'm also very finicky about my hair. So yeah.
I have a young supporter here for all the women.
Hello. Swati, Nandita, Ishita, would love to see all of you. Shagun.
Dipali, Selva, Khushi, Shagun, Ishita, Vasavi, Swati, Vani, Diksha, Rashmi, Nanta. Love to see your faces. It helps. Shagun, you were there in the last lean in also, I remember.
Well, yes. And I love your sessions, Saloni. I normally don't miss any of them.
Oh, thank you.
Deepali, Ishita.
I think Deepa, we've lost her. She's back. So Deepa, if you can show your lovely face. I know she's also been there in some sessions. Yes. Awesome.
All right, smile. Done.
Awesome. Joining from London, still in bed. Thank you so much, Dipali, for joining from London. That is so sweet. Right. Okay, thank you, Arushi and Shubhasini, for sharing your responses. It's very sweet. Sheetal, thank you. Awesome. I have Soumya. Thank you, Soumya. Thank you, Sheetal. I have received your response also.
Subhashini has her hand raised.
Yeah, I actually forgot to add something in my feedback. So I thought I'll just voice it here if I think it might help. In terms of future asks or suggestions, something on marginalization at the workplace, because not all bullying is overt, like using bad language or shouting in meetings. That happens at a certain level. But when you reach a senior positions, it's a lot more subtle. And this whole alienation, marginalization, how do you deal with that, right? So it'll be nice if maybe in the future one could consider a session on that. And
yeah, I think that should be curated mainly for senior leaders, because it's not something that the way, what you said, right? The way it shows up is very, very covert, and it's done behind closed doors. It's not in your face, right? So I would say marginalization and politics at the workplace is a whole different conversation for senior leaders, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for the input, Shubhasini. I will have a chat with Shweta, or let's see if I feel that I have enough to curate this. This I would probably run as a panel because I haven't personally been in those situations. So I can bring my knowledge on psychology and behavioral, techniques to this. But I would want to bring people who've been in the place and navigated it into a panel. And if you would want to be on that panel, very happy that whenever I'm looking at it, I have your number in the feedback form. I will reach out to you.
Sure, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Shabasini.
If we have any questions that you think are still unanswered, feel free to shoot them at Saloni.
Yes. So
Hi,
we
sir.
have- Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Who's talking, but I can't make out. Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Saloni. Am I audible?
Yes, Sonia, you're
Yes.
audible.
Yeah. Hi. This is my first Lean-In event that I'm joining in, so it's quite interesting. Thanks to the Lean-In forum on WhatsApp for bringing this event to me. So just wanted to ask a question from my experience. It's pretty much akin to what Shagun had shared a few minutes ago. So I was in a team where, I was one of the only female members there. And during many meetings, when I used to ask for my clarifications, people would speak over me. And, the person who's responding will respond only to the men. Like I'll be starting to frame my question and somebody would cut me right in the middle. And, this happened about once or twice. And then the third time onwards, I would politely tell to the other person, please let me finish my question. And,
Okay.
you can please ask after me if that's okay with you. And, when I started standing up for, myself and just, asking to be heard and everything, I never got any kind of feedback after that. And a few months later, for my performance, appraisal discussion, my team leader came to me and said, people are telling that you're shouting in meetings. And I'm like, you were not a part of those meetings. So I think it should be, prudent if you heard my side of the things. And I explained to him, that, this was what was happening. I was being cut off while I was asking a question. So all I asked was to complete my question and, nothing more. And he just, he's like, is that so okay? Karke, he just kept quiet, but, he didn't offer any other point of, resolution or whatever it is. And I think Shweta also brought a very good point about the organization culture.
Right.
So I work with one of the biggest, IT services organization in the country.
Right.
And, there's a lot of push for inclusion, for, women to take up more roles and everything from the top up. But I think we still have a long way to go to, change that. So as a third person, I'm just curious to hear, like, what would have been your,
I think a couple of these things have been addressed, and I'm going to summarize them very, very quickly. I'm going to go a little fast. I'm going to start with some personal feedback, Soumya. I hope you don't mind. So you took about 2 minutes to explain the situation to me, right? So I had to, at some point, focus back again and again on what is the point you're making, right? So there may be a reason you're being cut. That is that you're taking too long to make your point, right? If that is happening again and again for you, what you want to do is write down what you want to talk about and get it crisper. Shubhashini, are you trying to say something here? Okay, right? Because people don't have attention spans, which is why earlier I had said 30 seconds, explain it to me so that it forces us to get crisp, right? People don't have attention spans, especially in the world of social media. So that is a personal feedback. Keeping that aside, if this is happening, right, and people are feeling that you're shouting in meetings, it is a biased situation. The way to handle it is, if your manager says this, after you finished, it would have been great to be like, how do you think I should have handled it? Or do you think I should just keep quiet and not be heard? Ask him for an input, right? Because the minute they give you advice, what happens is that after that, they are forced to help you with that advice. Right? And you're giving him an option which he can't say, keep quiet, don't be heard. I've given him an option he can't agree to. So he's forced to give me practical suggestions. Can you give me tangible suggestions where I should do this? Right. The other thing is you become a champion of diversity and inclusion, right? And don't do it when these issues are arising. Do it beforehand, like what Shweta said. That would be a great way to do it. Now you mentioned your people tend to cut you and your points don't get answered. Drop it in an email. Everything that we've already discussed, you can use a combination of these options, Soumya. But I would start with get crisper with communication. Like you could have just said this in 30 seconds. This is how. Every time I talk in a meeting, I'm spoken over and the people only respond to what the second person, the man, has said. I have tried multiple times to pause the person, but then in my feedback, I get that I'm shouting in meetings. I have addressed this. You see how crisply it is happening? And this takes practice. Avoid using so many fillers. You may not be as fast in talking as I am. I'm generally a very fast speaker. But it is about just taking that 10 seconds extra to frame and be like, oh, am I crisp about it? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that does. So I'll take that as a learning point for sure.
Thank you. And I hope, you didn't feel bad about the personal feedback that I have given. But over and above that, everything that we've discussed in interruptions, there are so many ways to do it. One of the non-verbal ways is just put your hand on the table so that you're not screaming, right? Just extend it to the center of the table or build in allies. Find one or two people who will be your champions. See, the minute you ask somebody for help and ask them to become your champion, then they can't go against you. And then don't just say, mentor me. Say, will you become my sponsor? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any more questions? I have about 5 more minutes at max now.
I think there was a request that was bumped up by Sneha.
Okay.
Let me read it out from the chat. So she worked on a project before her maternity leave, and while she was on maternity leave, the project got live and a lot of praise was given company-wide to all the other people, but her name was left out. And when she called it out, they said that they basically said you were on leave. Okay. So she did not get the recognition she deserved in this case.
Awesome. So one of the ways would have been, now in retrospect, what could have happened, Sneha, is that you mentioned the work you had done and be like, hey, I was part of A, B, C, D, E. And still my name was left out because I was missing. And this is the work I set up and handed over to the team. If you've done stuff, you're part of the stuff, or you've created processes so that the people who are picking up the load when you're on maternity can manage it, right? You quantify, you back it and you say, I was there, because we know you're expecting people to say things like you were on leave, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that is something that could have happened. But now that it is done, if it is a big, important project, still go ahead and be like, hey, I was in leave for, let's say, 20% of the project or 30% of the project. But I did, kind of do all of these things. And I think it's unfair. Chances are low if it was a company email call out or something. I don't see the company writing another email saying we left out Sneha's name. Anybody else thinks? I mean, very real.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened, I called out in front of like everybody to the director, like I was on maternity leave. I didn't left the company, which is a general perspective of how women are like, you're maternity leave, you are not coming back. So yeah, so that I did. But let's say if I'm not just on leave, if I go on a small vacation, which you cannot avoid. So, and yeah, respective, you said that's correct. But I had I was due before my, I had a delivery before my due date. So that was also a problem. Like I couldn't manage, and then I had a emergency delivery. Right. So that was that was unavoidable. But yeah, going further, how could I manage it better? That was my point.
So what happened in the responses, which you mentioned that I told them I was on maternity leave, I did not leave the company, does not show at any point your contributions, right? It just becomes a reason. It's like, yeah, I was on maternity leave, but my name should be included. which is not, is it a compelling argument for the other person? No, it would have been like, yes, I went on leave from so and so point and I had an emergency. But before that, I would just start with, before I went on maternity leave, which is temporary. These are the things I did, which is why my name should be included. Nobody owes you inclusion. You have, and if you should be included, you need to show why. And that cannot be, I was on leave, I did not leave. It has to be, this is the work I put in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Saloni, I'll just come here. Some of the things, I mean, which is more concrete and which shows your contribution, as you said, is, having endorsements or some recommendation or appreciation shared for the piece of work you've done, right?
Yeah.
Or asking some project leaders or even peers to come and kind of vouch for the work you had done during that time would also help.
Yes.
Okay, I have something to add to that. I mean, to what Diksha said. So typically in our projects, we do all that appreciation and, recognition when we are doing the farewell. Right. So if it's like an in between and, she wasn't there to the ends point and she had, been like till 30%, 40% and then on maternity leave, it just typically wouldn't happen. It's not that I think she's being marginal. Like in many of the projects, you even have people, who are reassigned to other projects and things like that. So even at that point of time, it would be like, the farewell or the lessons learned is more in terms of, where you're telling people, oh, you did this, you're fantastic, this is an area to improve.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily go back to everybody who was there from day one.
Yeah, you don't.
Sneha, and this is something that I learned along the way. So I've taken 2 maternity leaves. And the first time around, I call myself an idiot because I did not know how to manage it well. The second time around, what I learned was that before you go on maternity leave, right, you send out an email which lists out the work you have done before going on maternity. Okay, so you document the work you have done. Plus, you document all the other efforts you have taken to have a good transition during that 6-month period, right? So you have done knowledge transfer or whatever you have done. So you write it out to them, right? So it is documented proof to the sponsor of the project or to your boss or whoever the relevant stakeholder is, but you document it and you send it out, right? And in that piece, you basically mention, I am on maternity leave till this time, I will be back, right? So that also so people don't forget that this particular person needs to be included in that appreciation or whatever needs to be given out. Coming back, if you see this happening, you can always re-forward this email saying, before going on maternity leave, I had shared this with you and I am glad things panned out because of all the prep work I had done, right? So take that recognition for the work you have done and say that it acted as the foundation for whatever else was delivered during your absence, right? So once you do that, it makes it very hard for people to ignore your work then.
That's a very good point, I must say. I should have, I am rethinking, like I should have put that on my mail, at least a one line or something.
It's okay, we learn, Sneha. Thank you, Shweta. Shweta has some fabulous insights. I'm not a mother, so, my insights are not as nuanced as hers. But brilliant stuff. In fact, I think Shweta and I have been talking about how she needs to talk a little bit more about being a full-time employee and a full-time parent, both. Shweta, this is my subtle nudge publicly to you to get that off the ground.
Yes, I will reach out to you and we will put that piece out together.
Yes, and Sheetal, lovely idea. She's put something in the chat, which is maybe a congratulations email to the team and the manager, where you subtly mention your contributions along with other people's contributions, which led to the culmination. And you can always mention it was so great that, all the stuff that I had handed over, you got it to so-and-so.
Yes.
And you made my maternity very smooth.
Yes, exactly.
So somebody mentioned I'm a straightforward person. I don't know if we have Priyanka here, we do. So I don't take to humor. Yes, I used to be a very straightforward person. I was not a very funny person. But humor is one of the best ways to diffuse a situation. Hey, everybody has seen Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na? Priyanka, where are you?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. there is a reason Jay is so great at non-violence, right? And which is why we started the session with, are you okay to bring changes? Humor wins people over. And there is a lot of content out there to learn how to be humorous. I am not a witty person. I'm not a funny person. Kabhi in my bucket list, one day I want to do at least one stand-up set as a challenge, right? Because I'm not a funny person. But you don't need to be great at cracking jokes. You just need to be great at making things a little light-hearted. Because then what you would say straight up would ruffle feathers, now just becomes funny. Journey of a Joke is a great series by Abish Mathi to understand how these people look at creating jokes, just to understand the principles of humor. The principles of humor, and so there is a lot. It's a separate conversation. I won't get into it right now. I love that topic, but yeah. So I would say, please be straightforward, but build in the ability to bring humor where needed. Where needed. Not everywhere, where needed. There are times when you want to be straightforward and be like, is that so?
So one of the situations I had, if time permits, Saloni. So in my previous company, one of my peer has asked all 3 members in our female members in our team that, did you had any Me Too situation in your life, in your career? So I felt embarrassed, and because he was asking during the lunchtime in front of everyone, so I responded him back by saying that probably you should ask this question to your wife or sister. Yeah, because I was pissed off.
I mean, it's fine. You can do it. Somebody like me is capable of doing it, but then I'm okay with being labeled aggressive. That is the bit you need.
Where I'm coming, that I got that label that I'm aggressive.
So the other way to have handled it is be like, inquisitive much? Or like, ooh, sensitivity scale really high? Or are you trying to invite an Me Too for yourself?
Oops, okay.
Right. So because you made it very personal.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you wanted to bring up the wife, if you knew the wife's name, let's say her name is Shikha, you'd be like, should we ask Shikha this too? Right? So just kind of, or you could have just been polite and straight and be like, I don't think, it's a public setting. I don't.
No, so first response was that only, that I think this is not, this is not relevant to you. I gave that response, but then he pushed again. No, but there must be something, right, in your career in 3 or 4.
So which is where you, instead of saying not relevant to you, should have been like, hey, I don't think you're being sensitive about this. Like, this is a very sensitive topic. Based on ICC trainings, we are not supposed to have these conversations in public settings.
Right.
It's not personal, right? So you depersonalized it, but if you gave a direct response, I think this is one of those cases where it is absolutely okay.
So is there not a POSH committee in this organization?
There was, but and one of my mentor actually, told me that you should report this to POSH, that this instance should not have happened.
This is not acceptable. I mean, it's actually like, if you have said it's not okay and the person is still asking, it's actually kind of sort of harassment. I mean,
yeah,
if I were to put it that way.
Yeah, since I've given the response back, and then after that there was a boundary drawn, this instance didn't happen again, at least in my team. But yeah, I think now if I think, I should have reported it.
That's okay. We learn.
This was like 5 years. Yeah, 5 years back.
We learn and we reflect. And as I said, it is absolutely okay, because it's a POSH situation. Being straight up front is okay. And one of the humor things was, are you trying to invite your Me Too? So kind of put them in the back foot. I think we're going to have to close here. I have another commitment. Right. Shweta, Mansi, your hand is raised. I cannot not take what you have to say.
That's fine, Saloni. Maybe we can take it offline. You can go ahead. That's okay.
Yes. Awesome. Khushi has put a very nice hack in place. One of my hacking line is, I would appreciate if you could let me complete. Why would you want to do I would appreciate? It's again minimizing language. Right? But you can do it. I just feel like we need to stop putting so many qualifiers. Please is enough. But it's a choice. Because when you tell somebody, I would appreciate if you could be more sensitive, now you're just going to get a random label outside in the boys' locker room. I'm telling you this for a fact. Men are very weird when it comes to being educated. So they're very, very weird. Even if they're woke, but they say randomly problematic things out of conditioning, they're not ready to get educated. Personal experience, I'm telling you this. They have to find other ways to get them on board. Cool.
Thank you, Saloni, for this fabulously interactive session. I think we are almost an hour over time, and we still have so many of us who stayed back for the Q&A random discussions part of the session as well. So thank you everyone for showing up, and we really appreciate you being here. Thank you, Saloni, for a fabulously interactive session. Loved it.
Thank you, Saloni.
So much.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Saloni. It
I
was
loved it
amazing.
too. And in fact, one of the reasons why I joined the session was because I saw that the instructor is Saloni, and I had so much fun in her last thing. So, I haven't really faced too much of, the discriminatory thing, but I thought, oh yeah, Saloni's session would be fun to attend. Let's attend.
Thank you so
So
much.
I think it was very informative, very nice.
Oh, thank you so much. Great. Shweta, Mansi, could you hang back for a minute? Then we can stop recording.